Alright, so how many of you guys watch sports? Mostly everyone, right? Well, some of you guys like to watch boxing from, when it starts in August to January. Some of you guys like to watch baseball from April to October. I myself, I like to watch boxing all year round because it's not seasonal. I can watch a great fight in January, February, March, you name it. I can watch it all the time. And today I'm going to talk to you guys about boxing, commonly known as the sweet science. Throughout the decades, the sport of boxing has changed dramatically from its popularity, upcoming boxing stars, boxing economic revenue, and even the safety of the sport itself has had dramatic changes over the years. Boxing has become one of the most popular sports around the world, especially in the Americas, around Europe, and even parts of Asia. As stated in history of boxing, boxing was prevalent in North Africa in 4000 BC and was also popular in Greek and Rome. But the real popularity began in the late 1860s. By 1904, boxing was added to the Olympic Games program. Boxing gained more popularity once it began being promoted in the early 20th century. It gained more fans and more money, but that's for later. Once boxing began being televised along with pay-per-view, it was showing how many fans it was attracting. According to Sports Sticks, these are the top 10 grossing pay-per-view fights of all time. Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, I haven't added this one to it. It's just 4.4 million buys. And besides the growth of its popularity throughout the decades, boxing has also lost some of its popularity to date. Upcoming boxing, after the unsatisfying fight between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, which was supposed to be the fight of the century, many people have lost their interest in the sport and have said that boxing has died. But little do they know about these upcoming boxing prospects that are going to change the game. Today I will talk to you guys about 3 great upcoming boxing prospects. The first one I'll talk about is Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. This guy right here, who fights at the flyweight division at 112 pounds. He has a perfect record of 44 wins, 0 losses, and 38 knockouts. He is currently rated the #1 pound-for-pound king shortly after Floyd Mayweather's retirement in September 2015, who held that throne. And after 2 fights with HBO Boxing, he's already a big star. The second boxing prospect I'd like to talk about is Vasyl Lomachenko, who fights in the featherweight division at 126 pounds and has a record of 4 wins, 1 loss, and two of those wins coming by way of knockout. And you guys are probably wondering, why am I going to talk about this guy who only has 5 fights? Well, let me tell you guys about his amateur career. He had a phenomenal amateur record of 396 wins, 1 loss, which he avenged twice by beating the same guy. He has 2 gold Olympic medals, one in 2008 and one in 2012. And in just over 5 fights with HBO, he's already shining. He has won his first featherweight championship. And lastly, I will talk to you guys about my personal favorite boxing prospect, who has already proved to the world that he is indeed the next big boxing star. He has already won. Oh, I'm sorry. And according to boxing, he is known as the most feared man in the sport of boxing today. Max Kellerman states him as the monster of the middleweight division. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Gennady Golovkin. He has an extraordinary record of 34 wins, 0 losses, and 31 knockouts. And 21 of those knockouts have came in consecutively. This past Saturday, he had his first pay-per-view fight, which he fought David Lemieux, a knockout artist who had 34 wins, 31 knockouts, and 2 losses, which he destroyed within 8 rounds. And boxing, I'm sorry. So watch out for Gennady Golovkin, who is becoming a big star that all fans are loving because of his ability to destroy every opponent that stands in his way. And throughout the decades, boxing economic revenue has changed. As stated in the history of boxing, in the beginning of the 20th century, boxing became probably one of the shortest way to glory and wealth. The Center for Professional Boxing Promotion gradually moved to the USA. This is primarily caused by the growing U.S. economy, as well by the great numbers of immigrants arriving from all over the world. George Tex Ricard was the first Romanian promoter. He was the man who turned boxing into a big business. In the 1930s, Joe Louis, a former heavyweight champion, made over $5 million. According to the book, A Concise History of the Sweet Science by Gerald R. James, during the Great Depression, Joe Louis was able to sell out the New York Yankee Stadium, which attracted more than 88,000 people. And he generated over $1 million. Imagine that, in the Great Depression. In the 1960s, superstar Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxing star to ever live, made over $69 million in his 20-year-long career. Floyd Money Mayweather, known as the most paid athlete according to Forbes magazine, has made a fortune fighting today's era of boxing. He has made over $500 million throughout his professional boxing career. His perfect professional boxing career. Although boxing has been proved to be probably the shortest way to glory and wealth, not every professional boxer is guaranteed big money. Boxing has been known as one of the most dangerous sports in the world. In 1860s, after boxing began its popularity in the U.S., a fight in 1868 lasted for 185 rounds, lasting more than 6 hours. It left both fighters horribly disfigured and the loser dead 10 minutes after the fight. So it's why in the 1900s, boxing fights were trying to be reduced, but they were still going over 50 fights in 50 rounds. And this shows how they were fighting. They were fighting bare knuckle. They didn't have no gloves. And in the later 1980s, when the WBC, WBA, and IBA came to a common decision of changing the boxing matches from 15 rounds to 12 rounds. In amateur boxing, fighters are made to wear head protection along with padded gloves for their safety. Today, the Council of Boxing is going to remove the head protection from amateur Olympics starting as next year, as it causes more contentious with the headgear, and they want the fighters to get ready in case they decide to go into professional boxing. Throughout the years, boxers have tampered their gloves as a way of cheating. From the article Dishonesty in the Ring, Luis Resto, a boxer, was caught tampering his gloves on June 16, 1983 when he fought Billy Collins Jr. Resto was caught when both fighters exchanged handshakes from their opposing corners. Collins Jr. suffered permanent blurred vision, which ended his promising career. Another example is Antonio Margarito, who was caught with tampered gloves just before entering the ring against Shane Mosley in January 24, 2009. Margarito had plastered of Paris in his hand wraps, which brings up the controversy of Margarito versus Cotto 1. And that's what happened in Margarito versus Cotto 1. Miguel Cotto was undefeated, and Margarito went in there and stopped him in the left round, which brings up the controversy, which he was caught a year later with tampered gloves. And since boxers are watched in the locker rooms by WBC or opposing trainers as they put on their hand wraps. And right here, this is WBC counsel, and this is Freddie Roach, Manny Pacquiao's trainer, watching Mayweather getting his hand wraps put on. In conclusion, I showed you guys the many ways boxing has changed dramatically throughout the decades, from its popularity to its safety. Thank
Have you seen the new post? Check out so yeah, we'll pay
Yeah, I also worked on that. I don't know what.
Oh, you can watch it?
No, I couldn't. I just saw the but he didn't knock him out, right? He knocked him down. He did? Oh, I thought he had a organization. Oh, yeah. I want to watch it.
The planets are standing to go by definition of stars and planets and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen Clerks? Clerks.
Maria, you here? Also. Okay. Anthony, I thought that the opening was pretty good, although I think you got the wrong name, the wrong sport in there when you mentioned a seasonal sport. And then you came back and said, I like boxing because it's all year long. And you'd actually said boxing is one of the seasonal sports. So you kind of stepped on your own.
It's not seasonal.
What's that? I know it's not.
Oh,
You said it was.
oh, did I?
Yes.
No. That's fine.
And then you came back and said, I like boxing because it's not seasonal. I said, wait a second, you just said it was seasonal. And that's what I'm saying. It was a little confusing. I assume you were probably talking about football because of the dates that you listed there, August, January, or whatever the dates were. I assume that that's what you're talking about. But, you kind of, like I said, stepped on your joke, or not your joke, but your reference there by making that mistake. The topic was clear. I thought you did a good job on identifying what the subject was and also where you were going. I thought you set things up pretty well at the beginning, although the preview sounds like it's going to be chronological, and then it doesn't really turn out to be that way. We're kind of going in several other directions, and so I think you need to give us a better sense of how this is going to develop in the presentation. Early on, there was some historical information that you referred to, and you did some source citing. I didn't hear that quite as much in the later parts of the speeches. You're often depending upon just basic, you've got the pictures up there with the records and all that kind of stuff. I don't think there's any controversy about those sorts of things. I'm sure that's true. The information that you had there. But some of the information, for instance, you mentioned at the end the fights that went on in the 1860s for thousands of rounds and people who died. And I'm going, well, where's the information about that? You mentioned at one point how much money Joe Louis brought in, or how much Muhammad Ali brought in, or how much Floyd Mayweather's made. And I'm going, Mayweather is made, Merriweather is somebody else. And I'm going, okay, well, where's this information coming from? I don't doubt that it's true. I just want to make sure that you're consistent in citing the information. To me, the section that I thought was most interesting, in addition to the historical stuff, is the section where you're talking about what the future of boxing is, and you're talking about these particular prospects that you are interested in. And I think that might have been a good place to focus. Maybe cut most of the other stuff out and focus on where boxing is today. We, the name people have mostly, disappeared. Mayweather's maybe the one person that is still viable, although he's supposedly retired, but we'll see how long that lasts till the next $500 million paycheck, I suppose. That sort of thing. So the question is, where is boxing headed now? And I want to tell you what the future of boxing is. And here are 3 people that everybody should be paying close attention to, and then maybe focus on that. I think that might have given you a sharper way of talking about the subject. It's an area that you're more interested in, because I think when you talk about it, it's pretty obvious that that's the place that you're most enthusiastic about talking about the subject. And then it wouldn't. Then the other material wouldn't have felt like it was distracting, because we got the historical stuff, then we got those 3 people, then we went back to the historical stuff, and it just felt like we were kind of bouncing around on the subject. And then we got the safety issue going on. And went, how does all of this fit together? And that all fit together in one section. Expanding that to, I think, being your speech probably would be a way to make that work better. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.